Here's the honest truth. I have bought almost every planner, not just a few planners, but like every year or every few months, I've tried a new planner. The ones that have an hourly breakdown, the full day breakdown, the 3-bucket breakdown, vertical, horizontal, blank page. I've done all of it. I even have the ones that would have the specific water intake, which I always wanted to be really good at, and a gratitude section. And I would fill it out a few times and then that's it. And I'd still wake up a few weeks in, a few days in, thinking I have to rebuild my plan from scratch again. It took me an embarrassing long time to figure out it probably wasn't the planner. Here's something I'm learning now that I didn't really understand then, or as I purchased all of the planners. Those planning systems, for me, are borrowed logic, meaning those planners are built intentionally for the way those individuals live their days, how they see success in their structure. It's going to follow that system, whether it fits me or not, because that's how that one's built. So you're not really building your day. You're building a day based on what someone else has figured out works for them. Separately, though I love writing because I do think it helps your brain and I will continue to write, I've also tried this with apps. I have spent hours working on Notion following amazing productivity planners online, built the entire system the way they broke it down, and then the next day I realized it just always felt like copy and paste. It didn't feel like something that was going to help me. So that didn't work either. And I'm giving myself grace in the sense of this wasn't a motivational problem. I am definitely motivated to do well with planning because I do think there's an opportunity for it to help me, keep me sane, keep everything somewhat in order. It was really a fit problem with the structures that I was working with. So for me, the question I was missing every time I used any system or any planner wasn't what I want to get done in the day. I have more than enough ideas on things I can do, things I'm not doing enough of that I want to get to. The real issue was, how do I want my day to feel? What do I want to focus on? This sounds really simple and soft, I'm sure, but I promise you, it is not. Because when I first started asking how I want my day to feel and what energy do I have, in the beginning, I just sat there blankly. Because giving myself the time and space to really ask what I wanted and not what I need to do for everyone and how I wanted to feel felt so counterintuitive into what being productive meant in my reality and what I thought. And clearly it's changing. But in the beginning, sitting with that took a long time to answer. But when I really started to ask that question on how I want my day to feel and what do I have the energy for, my answers changed. What I would put in any planner changed because now I'm being more intentional with where my focus is going. And because I'm thinking about how I want my day to feel, whether it's energized, productive, relaxed, calming, any of these things, it will determine what I put in my planner and what I schedule time for. So while I still have a checklist of things to do, that's never going away. The whole concept on how I want my day to feel kind of raises the standard on my expectations of the day, even if it's through one moment, because now I'm focusing on those moments where I can have some crazy times. But if I said, I want to feel more connected, I want to feel more connected today with one of my friends who I haven't spoken to in a while, I'll make time, call them, have that moment, even if I had to deal with a rough day at work. Knowing I had that moment and got to experience that connection, I'll feel really good about the day regardless. And knowing that has made the question and response time quicker in how I want the day to feel because I know at the end I'll feel better. And that's something I wasn't getting from the other planners. I wasn't giving myself that time to really be honest with myself and answer that. So if you don't give yourself the chance to decide on how you want your day to feel, you're going to spend most of your days on things you let the day decide for you and not the things you want. And you may end up like me where you're on these goals that you didn't set yourself. You kind of inherited it from everywhere else. I grew up a competitive athlete. And there was something that I was told very early on and continuously from wonderful coaches. Practice alone doesn't get you better. It's the effort you put into practice that will make you better. You can't show up and just go through the motions. You're never going to get anything out of it. And I'm now doing it when I plan and how I structure my days. I was just going through the motions. I wasn't thinking through on what is it that I need to make my day feel something that I'm proud of and I've accomplished. How do I want to feel at the end of the day? That helped me alone realize I can't just go through the motions. I have to think this through just like I would with anything else and be more intentional. Now, because I'm giving myself those few minutes, usually the night before when I think about my intention for the next day, I'm thinking about how I want my day to feel. And if I know that, it will give me something to focus on throughout the day to make sure I'm keeping the promise that I made for myself. Because one thing I've learned is if I schedule a meeting with someone, I always keep it. But if it's something I'm scheduling for me, I always feel like it's flexible. I always feel like it can be moved. And lately, I've been thinking, why am I giving myself and my energy to everyone else and then letting myself and what I'm trying to focus on get pushed aside, just like I would protect everyone else's time in my schedule? So what does this practice for me actually look like? I won't just say intentional. I'll give you what I do, and please adjust whatever works for you. I don't do well in the mornings thinking everything through. So I start my entire function, or I start this practice the night before. I'll close out the day that day with a few lines on what happened, how I felt, any recap that I'd like. And then that's where I start on what do I want for tomorrow? How do I want tomorrow to feel? And what's my intention? What am I protecting so that I can get that goal that I'm making for myself? I'll write it down the night before. Then when I wake up in the morning, in the midst or right before I start running around to do everything else, all I do is look at what I wrote. I don't write anything else in the morning, not yet. I see what I'm looking to protect and what my goal is and how I want to feel. Then, once I've gotten the kids off to school or I'm sitting at my desk ready to work or right before we're going to go out if it's the weekend, then I'll look at what's actually scheduled or planned for that day. Where can I help myself so that I can get the feeling that I wanted to get? And then that's how the day goes. Now it never feels like the day happens to me, because even if I'm getting one portion of it where I protected it, it still feels better. It doesn't feel like I lost another 24 hours going, what just happened? And that's something I didn't get with just the planners built as they are, because I wasn't asking myself that question. Now I am. I can use any of these planners and include it there, but it helps me figure out what I want to include in that planner. And that's the entire day cycle, starting the night before, confirming in the morning, checking in before the day really starts. And I try to do that daily because it honestly takes, now that I've gotten better at these questions, about 5 minutes for each of these things. What I tend to do is on Sundays, plan out my whole week, not down to the hour, just so I can see these are things I can't get rid of. And I don't want to, but they're things that are planned out. So then now I know where I'm protecting my time around that. And that's something I just wasn't giving myself. And that's the whole practice. Saying it out loud sounds embarrassingly simple. Doing this for a few months, it really compounds and makes it easier to make those decisions now, because you know how you're going to feel at the end of the day. And it's exciting to go, oh, I'm going to be okay. And that's what I was looking for. The workbook's in the shop to help you really create a structure around your own day, and really to help you think and be honest with where your time is going. How much of it is actually going to things you want, or is it going to what everyone else expects you to want? That was a hard thing for me to sit down with. So it's there if you want to work through it, and I hope it helps. And that's all I have, a practice every day on purpose to help me stay in line with how I want to feel, and then work to build the day around that so that I don't get lost in the entire thing. So that's it. That's the whole note. If you found this helpful or you think it can help anyone else, share it with them. Click the link below to subscribe. Click the little bell to get notifications on a new episode. And you can find me everywhere at Open Day Collective. If any of this helped, I send a newsletter out every Sunday called The Open Day, where I go deeper in on what I'm thinking about and how I'm figuring out how to make sure, again, that I don't get lost and keep working towards someone else's idea of success and start building my own. I'll see you next week for episode 8.